Alright, so we've got a no crank, no start issue with the Xterra. So let me show you what's going on when I try to start the car. That's all we're getting. Distance to empty is blank. Nothing's coming up on this side of the screen. And I saw online that there's a way you can do what's called a self-test. So I'm gonna try to do that now. Put some water on the windshield because apparently the wipers are supposed to kick on. Turn the ignition on. Push this 10 times within 20 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn the ignition off. Turn the ignition fog lights. Headlights, brights, back to normal lights, back to brights, back to normal lights, back to brights. And this will actually be a really good way to rule out a bad battery, because doing all this will put some strain on your battery. So I'm guessing if you made it to this video, you probably already tried to jump. Now the fan turned on. I believe that's the whole self-test. Nope, now the wipers are going again. So it looks like it must just go in order. It goes wipers, headlights, then something else in the engine, and then finally you can see here the lights are off and still completing the self-test. I believe it'll just continue in circuit until you cancel it off. So I'm gonna go do that now. Shut it down. Okay, so this is how you're gonna use the spark plug tester. Insert the spark plug. I have an alligator clamp going from this lead here over to a ground. So that should complete the circuit, and now we can test it. All right, we're hoping to see spark here. Well, there's definitely no spark, so we've got a no crank, no start. Cylinders aren't getting spark, so the next thing I want to test for is fuel. And if we can eliminate fuel, basically show that there's not any fuel getting to the cylinders, then there's only one thing it could be, and that's going to be the engine computer, engine control module, because that's what controls spark and fuel. Now this is the other reason that makes me think computer. When I go here, I try to connect my scan tool, just nothing. So if I go back to the home screen, you know what, let me do it like this. Scanner. The OBD port has power, so if I go automatic ID, it's trying to communicate with the truck. Still trying. Still trying. And you can hear the condenser fan is just bumping along. Not sure why that is. And basically it knows that it's a Nissan, but that's all it knows. So we'll put in that it's a 2006 Xterra 4.0. It's not able to get any other info other than 3 digits out of the VIN. So we do our code scan, like it's talking, but it doesn't seem to be communicating with the ECU. So it's going to go through all the systems and pull all the codes. So boom, systems detected 1, and that was the transmission, was the system that it detected. And if you noticed at the beginning, it was trying to detect the ECU, but it ended up having to skip over it, go straight to the transmission. There's also this CAN communication circuit fault. Okay, so boom, we've got the transmission and the ABS modules are both done. So next it's gonna try to do the airbag module. Boom, airbag module is done. Body control module. 5 codes in the body control module. CAN communication circuit. Oh, okay, those are just TPMS codes. Low tire, low tire, low tire for all 4 tires. That's interesting. And it says, where does it say? IPDM current codes. So it looks like it detected the IPDM, but it hasn't detected the ECU. So it's all done now. Sorry, I thought it was still going. So we've got transmission, air anti-lock brakes, that's 2. Airbag is 3, BCM is 4, intelligent power distribution module is 5, meter is 6, TPMS is 7. So there's no engine on there, which there normally would be, which leads me to believe that the scan tool is not able to communicate with the ECU. So transmission codes, we've got our CAN communication circuit fault. ABS, that's the only code in that module. BCM has the same code. The intelligent power distribution module has the same code. This has the same code. I'm not even sure what meter is. I'll have to look that up. And TPMS, same code. So if we go back, normally we would be able to run our engine tests. So when we go to engine, we go to data. Let's see if we can communicate. Boom, no communication. So for some reason, it can't communicate with the engine control module. All right, so I just went through and tested all the fuses in the fuse box. There's 2 columns or rows, and this is how you test them. If you have a multimeter, put the black to one side of the fuse and a red to the other. Put your setting on ohms, and it should have 0.1 or 0.2 ohms of resistance. Really what you're looking for, more so than the resistance, is if it says open loop, then there's not continuity in the circuit, which means you have a blown fuse. And I found that this fuse right here, which is a 20 amp, it's in slot 53, that fuse was blown. And that is the fuse for EGI, which is the ignition system basically. So that would explain why we have no spark, no fuel, no communication with the ECU, etc. Alrighty, so it's the next morning and I'm back in the garage. I'm gonna replace this fuse that blew with the new fuse. And then I went ahead and replaced the battery terminal as well because it wasn't making a good connection. It kept sliding back and forth. So hopefully this one will do the trick. I'm ready to install the battery now. Okay, so after replacing the fuse, the condenser fan is still kicking on. I'm not getting any service engine soon light, which leads me to believe there's still no connection to the computer. Now I'm gonna see if I can connect with my scanner. I'm gonna go check the fuse to see if it blew. And sure enough, it's an open loop. The fuse immediately blew. I read online that a common issue when it comes to this fuse blowing is the vent canister solenoid. So I just went ahead and unplugged that. I'm gonna replace the fuse, key on, see if it blows. So I had replaced this fuse once again and it popped before I even powered up the vehicle. So pretty much as soon as I put the fuse in, it blew. All right, so what I've done now is I've unplugged all the ignition coils because these are some cheap aftermarket ignition coils that I threw in there because I didn't think it would really matter, but that could be what's causing the issue. So what I've done, there's no fuse in there because it blew again. I just had to eliminate the relay. This is the ECM relay. This is the fog light relay, so you can swap those. But of course, as soon as I turned the key to the on position, the fuse blew again. So I did check out a wiring diagram. There's a few things I want to check here, and then kind of walk you through them as I go. Well, this is our interior engine fuse box right inside the glove box, and it looked like what I wanted to do is check fuse 14 and fuse 1 to see if they're blown. This is fuse 1 down here. And you've got 14, which is the third one up from the bottom. So 12 is the lowest one on the right-hand side, 13, 14, and 1. The reason I was testing those is because they're on the same circuit that controls the illumination of the service engine soon light, which you can see here, we actually don't have. Next thing to check is the evap canister, which is behind this flap. We're gonna unplug that and see if that's what's blowing our circuit. If you're at the rear driver's side tire, you go underneath this plug right here. There's a little 2-wire connector. That goes up to the evap vent solenoid, which is on top of this evap canister. I'm not gonna lie, this thing is looking very disgusting. We're getting towards the end of the troubleshooting now. So, got 2 fuses left. Put that fuse in. Listen for the fuse to pop if it does. Oh yeah, I could hear it. So here's a wiring diagram. Fuse 53 goes into the ECM relay, and then 3 wires come out. The brown wire, the green wire, the pink wire, and this white wire tees in off the green wire. So I can just tell you right now, I already traced the white wire, and that is for the evap vent solenoid, which is behind the wheel, rear left passenger side of vehicle. This green wire though comes down, and that's the wire for ignition coil 1 through 6. See that? Boom, the green wire. Okay. And then, oh, I didn't see this before. So this taps into the same circuit. This white wire here comes out as 13. Oh wait, no, I'm tripping. 33 white wire right here. And that goes into condenser 1. Well, the interesting thing is the condenser fan is going nuts every time I turn the key on. However, even once the fuse blows, the condenser is still jumping. So maybe the condenser is drawing too much power that it's blowing the ignition circuit. I don't even know if that's possible, but that's definitely something I can check. Just pull the condenser 1 relay and see if that helps at all. Interesting. So other than that, the only other wire on the ECM relay is this pink wire, which comes down here, 46. And that comes across, it turns into 40. 40 comes out here, goes down here, and it goes into the engine control module at VB. So either that circuit is the problem, the condenser. I've already tested the ignition coils and the vent valve. So it's either going to be the condenser or possibly the IDPM itself. But the thing with the IDPM is, like, I did get the car to start once, so I don't know if that's indicative of something else, but I guess we'll find out. All right, so it turns out the fan relay is built in right here with the ECM. So I just unplugged the fan. You can see right there. I went ahead and verified that it's not running. Then I took this 20 amp fuse that's for the radio right here. I set it up in 53. Now I'm gonna see if it blows. So let's pull it out and see if it blew. Oh yeah, definitely blown. So the condenser has nothing to do with the circuit being over stimulated, I guess you could say. So that eliminates the condenser as a possible issue, the condenser fan. Alright, so the ignition coils are unplugged, and I've also unplugged this wire, which goes down to the O2 sensor. So this side of the engine doesn't have a heat shield.
Yeah, I just want to grab something for...
We have a check engine light again. It's blinking. We have our scanner trying to communicate. So what I did this time was I unplugged the ignition coils and I unplugged this wire for the O2 sensor. So the fuse did not blow. Now I'm gonna unplug the ignition coils, and if it still doesn't blow, then the car might even start up. Then I know the problem is with those 5 wires somewhere. Okay, ignition coils are plugged back in. We still got the check engine lights. Let's see if we can connect now. So we're trying to connect. I'm just gonna go ahead and try to fire it up. All right, let's try it again. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is start plugging everything back in. Starting back here with the evap canister vent valve solenoid. I need to get the zip tie off, and then I'll go ahead and connect it, put a new zip tie. Okay, every time I try something, I'm going to go back through and see if the truck will start. Evap vent solenoid tank thingy-majigger is put back together. And we start it right up. Next up is the O2 sensors, which I unplugged. So this is the driver's front tire. This is the plug, and this is where it hooks up. All right, so now I'll plug the O2 sensor back in and see if that was the issue the whole time. I'm actually gonna go ahead and just pull the O2 sensor so I can inspect the wiring first. Because if that ends up being the problem, what I'll want to do, I guess, is to just go get a new sensor. And then if that doesn't work, then we know the issue is somewhere here in the wiring. Alright, so I've removed the O2 sensor. To access it, you have to take off the wheel, peel back the inner fender, and there's a little hole right there where it would go in. So now what I'm gonna do is plug this in, key on, see if the fuse pops. If so, go get a new O2 sensor. If that still blows it, then we know we have a problem with the wiring. Another thing about this is that O2 sensor is gonna get really hot, so I didn't want to just leave it laying on any of the plastic. So anyways, here we go. And we're still good. So that's really weird. We're still good. Oh, you know what? I haven't plugged back in this right here, the evap solenoid. Let me check that. Checking. All right, well now I'm really confused. Everything's plugged back in. The only thing that's not plugged in is the radio fuse. So I guess the last thing to do would be to test to see if that's been the problem the whole time. Because one thing I noticed is to test after I unplugged the injectors and everything else, I used the radio fuse. So I'd laugh if all this was just a short in the radio. So according to this, radio fuse is up here, which I've already pulled. The only other 20 is power socket. So I don't know if that's for the onboard diagnostic connector. Go unplug it just in case. So we'll take that, we'll put it right here where the radio fuse should be. And I guess let's see what we've got. Yeah, so everything seems fine. The only other thing I can test is the fog light, because I originally also took that 20 amp, placed it right here so you can see there's not a 20 amp there. So we'll take this same one, we'll set it up right there. See what we can do. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, so everything seems fine. The only thing I could think of was that these wires were twisted. But I'm gonna go ahead and just put this O2 sensor back in and refill all my fuses, and then I guess at that point we'll call it good. I mean, it's really hard to say what the thing was that fixed it, so let me get back with you. So the car has been running for about 10 minutes or so, and I just realized I did not torque down the lug nuts, so I'm going to do that. I wasn't going to leave right away anyways, but better do it now than forget. And just wanted to show you guys too, the display screen that shows if you're in 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive is now up again. The distance to empty was just basically dashes, and now it actually tells us again 193. Service engine soon light and VDC light. This VDC off, usually whenever you disconnect the battery, it'll stay on until you drive it. And now it's pulling up the entire VIN. Remember before it was only pulling up 3 digits. Code scan, and now let's see if it's talking to the engine. So there's 3 codes here, and I'll go ahead and clear the codes once this finishes. But for now, I'm gonna go torque down the lug nuts to spec, and I'll be right back. Okay, and now I'm back. So we've got engine codes, transmission codes, ABS codes, BCM. Let's see if we still have our CAN error codes in here. Yes, there's one there, there's one there. Steering angle sensor. Okay, so I need to clear these codes here. Clear all codes, yes. So it's gonna go through and clear the codes. You can see the check engine light is now off. Wow, 158,000 miles already. Goes by fast. Alright, we're all done. Now we'll do the scan again, and I'm real curious to see if the CAN error code is still on there, that U1000, because I already know the engine's not running perfect. It's had a catalytic converter code on there since we got it. Basically, I replaced the cats and it stayed off for like a month, maybe, if that. And then it came back, so obviously those weren't the best cats. So I'm not expecting no engine codes. I'm just hoping we'll be rid of the CAN error. So engine code 0, that's normal considering it hasn't gone through a drive cycle. But that is nice to know that all our sensors are plugged in. If we had a sensor that was unplugged, as soon as you scan for the codes and it pings that sensor, then it would come back and set the code. So that means I didn't forget anything. And it looks like the CAN code is gone. CAN code, you do the CAN code. We do still have that steering angle sensor circuit, which I should probably replace because that's a very cheap part. It can be a real pain in the ass. If it fails, pain in the butt, I should say. Sorry, YouTube. Well, guys, I'm starting to feel better now that I seem to have solved the issue. Didn't have to replace any parts, just clean up the wiring for the O2 sensor. The only thing that's still up in the air is the radio, because as you can see, it's not powered on at all whatsoever. So this aftermarket radio, I mean, everything's very straightforward. However, this is the Rockford Fosgate sound system with the factory amp. So the power wire to power the amp on, I had to get a little creative, and I think I might have done it wrong. So we'll see. Okay, system detected. The only code that it's pulling up now is the steering angle sensor circuit fault. So what I'm gonna do now is take it for a little drive, go get more fuses, and hopefully we can, you know, call it fixed. Y'all, well, I am back. Got the fuses. Haven't put them in yet, but just wanted to say the car's driving great. No issues, no check engine light. The VDC off warning light went away in about 2 minutes of driving. Basically, I left my complex and it shut off, so that's definitely good. All things are looking up. I'm gonna do one more code scan just to see if any new codes popped up before I went ahead. I'll go ahead and install the missing fuses that I swapped around. But as of right now, things are looking good. Well, what do we have here? We have a working radio, we have a running car, no check engine light, no warning lights. Everything seems to be working perfectly. So, I'm not sure what happened, but I'm guessing it all came down to twist in the wiring. So this is how the oxygen sensor wiring is supposed to go. See that there? And I don't get it. Every fuse is in place. I'm really not sure about the high DPM though, because I was reading a lot of bad stuff about them. So we'll go ahead and just put everything back and call this job done. Well, it's been a pretty intense 24 hours. It's about 4 o'clock right now, and I think that's right about when the tow truck showed up yesterday. So it definitely took some diagging, some thinking through it. But I'm really thankful for everyone on YouTube and everyone in the Nissan forums who was able to drop advice, you know, from previous people having the same issues. So hopefully anyone who's having this issues, what I just did will be helpful to you. I'm just a guy in his garage fixing his own car. So I know there might be some comments about you did this incorrectly or you could have saved time by diagnosing this. Go ahead and drop that. Anything that can help someone else. That's what I love about YouTube, because it saved my ass more than once. And hopefully this video was helpful. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But anyways, you all don't know Joe. I'm out of here. Have a great day, everyone.